Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host Valerie, and sometime co-host Miss Purrington. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about Austin comedy, those passing through, and those who we are blessed come our way. You can keep up with us on Twitter and Instagram at Comedy Wham or on our Comedy Wham Facebook page. If you're listening to this podcast, please rate and review us on iTunes. In addition to podcasts, Comedy Wham brings you articles, album reviews, live shows, an events page for live shows once we get back to them, featuring the best in Austin comedy in all its shapes and formats. And we've been doing a weekly online comedy show called Isolation Comedy. Launched in 2016, the podcast project brings you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and we usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene, and today the national comedy scene, one of the best in the world. All right, now that introduction was long, but just wait until I introduce our comic for today. Born in New York City, but raised in the Bronx, he cut his teeth in the New York City comedy scene, one that we are very fond of here at the at Comedy Wham. He's been on Montreal's Just for Laughs. You've seen him on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Adam Devine's House Party, At Midnight. He was handpicked by Howie Mandel for the CW showcase in Montreal as part of Just for Laughs. Variety Magazine, okay, now this is a pretty cool credit here. Variety Magazine picked him as a 2016 comic to watch, along with other alumni like Lauren Lapkus, Cameron Esposito, Roy Wood Jr., Jermaine Fowler. I mean, come on, are you kidding me? This is incredible. He's also got an Entre Nos HBO special. You can hear him on The Church of What's Happening Now with Joey Coco Diaz. Is there anybody that he doesn't know? Probably not at this point. All right, now, in the last 2 years, this is where I'm going to get really annoying, because I'm going to go into fangirl mode. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I love Superstore, and he has been a guest with, like, legit cool guest parts in both of those shows. So that was pretty cool to know that, hey, I've seen him, I've watched him. In fact, I rewatched them earlier this morning. All right, enough of the fangirling. Over the last year, he's been cast as a character on a show that was released earlier this year on CBS called Tommy with, and excuse my language, Eddie friggin' Falco. And he co-stars with her as the character Abner Diaz. And as if that wasn't enough, because that's already a lot. He's a good guy. It's not all just comedy and TV credits. He works with the Psychological Trauma Center at Cedars-Sinai, a one-of-a-kind school-based prevention and early intervention mental health program that serves Hispanic school children in the community. This is going to be way too short of an interview for everything that I would love to talk about with our guest. And now Comedy Wham presents our guest, Vladimir Caamaño.
Just a round of applause. I'm clapping into the microphone to.
Yes, me too.
To get the studio of applause. It's amazing what you missed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could have run for pages on that list. That's an impressive.
Thank you so much. It was a very nice intro. In some ways, it's creepy that someone knows so much about me. You know, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. I do really good research, so I did go to the trouble. It wasn't trouble, because we do legitimately have Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Superstore on our watch list. We went back and watched those episodes that you're on, and like the Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I distinctly remember your role is the sneaker thief accomplice. That's how I condensed it.
Right.
And I was like, because, some people will say they were a guest on a show, they don't have speaking parts. And you have, like, a legit speaking part. And, it's a very short part on the Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But then when I went to watch the Superstore episodes, okay, I promise you I'm not stalkery. I just do really good research. And these are my favorite shows. I was floored because I remember I mean, if anybody doesn't watch Superstore, they're like, Valerie, shut up, get on with it.
Right. You know what's funny is that research is all about like there's a fine line between research and stalking. It's all about content, right?
Yeah.
Because say if I'm researching Charles Darwin at the library, it's a form of intellectual stalking.
Yeah.
You know, so in essence, it's all stalking, all of it, the whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
If you go on Twitter and you're following, say Bill Maher, you're stalking Bill Maher.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but I guess the tone in which it's done.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it also is done to convey like legit fan of what you do. And what's really interesting about the Superstore appearances is that one really marries your background as from the Dominican Republic, raised in that your parents are Dominican, and being raised in that culture. And then the best is showcasing your Spanish on this major network TV show. And now pivoting to the comedy elements, that's such a big part of the comedy that I saw of yours, the Jimmy Kimmel, the Howie Mandel showcase. It's such a part of you that, I did want to consciously go from, okay, I'm going to fangirl about your appearances on two of my favorite shows, but then kind of pivot to, oh, but this is such a reflection of who you are.
Yeah, man. And even that is malleable, right? Like, who are you, so to speak?
Yeah.
It's you, but it's almost like it's a different version of you, which leads you to think that under different circumstances, you could technically be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because all they are words on a page, ultimately. And then if you say them a certain way, you communicate a meaning. But it's fascinating that I've been able to, parlay a lot of my experience into a variety of different versions of me. So it's still me, but it's like different versions of me. It's almost like alternate universes, So it's fun, man. It's really great, and I'm looking forward to, once this pandemic is over, to find like, what other versions of me are there?
Yeah.
Like, when you watch I think it's Louis Anderson on that show with Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, Baskets.
And it's like, man,
who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? Yeah.
Just play, just have fun, have fun, try something out, and as long as it's one, it's in good creative spirits.
Mm-hmm.
The field is open. So it's open, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I keep praying for is for guys like certain actors that inspire me, like Robin Williams and Denzel and those guys, and it's like you watch them and you go, they must have been nervous when they took that role. Like they had to be nervous when he did Mrs. Doubtfire, when Denzel did Malcolm X. We look at them now and we go, oh my God, it's so great. But at the time they were like, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna jump in, I'm gonna go.
Yeah. And I feel like that is probably something that you've thought about with your role on Tommy, because that's more of a dramatic, or that is a drama. It's definitely not a sitcom.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're different. They have different muscles. They have different beats. With Tommy, it's more of you're playing with, I'm a series regular. So I'm in every episode, versus in Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Superstar, I'm a guest star. Mm-hmm. So your positioning and how the story is told is different, whereas in Superstore, you're kind of like, you're kind of chiming in, but on as a series regular, you start to really push story. Like a lot, it's like you really have a more influence in how the other characters are behaving. And it's just fun because you say a line and you look, oh man, this is going to connect back later,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe in episode 5, they'll use what they did in episode 2. So every time you read a line, you have the excitement of going, man, like, who knows where this is going to go,
Yeah.
Maybe they're teasing out a relationship with Diaz and this other character, so it's just cool.
Yeah. You wrote a pilot called My Bronx Life.
Called A Bronx Life.
A Bronx Life.
A Bronx Life, yeah.
And since you have that experience of going from the writing to trying to get, land that show, which, it didn't at the time that you were pitching it, but I've read that it is something that you hope to get back to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that your brain is in constant motion because of the experience of writing that, for thinking, like you were just saying, that, where is my narrative going to go in the Tommy show?
It certainly gives you confidence, like when I sold my pilot, it gives you the confidence that, like, so what I'm working on, what I'm writing, what I'm putting out, it has a place in the market, and it's good work, and it's gotten the attention of certain people. So it gives you confidence to be like, well, what's next? What else can I write here? Mm-hmm. And can I do it with more fun next time? Because when I first did it, you're doing it with anxiety, you're doing it with stress, you're doing it with pressure. You're like, man, I got to get this thing going. And then once you do it and you feel the burn of a network passing on your project, it's like, well, I made some money, and I got to play myself on a network show about my life. And how many people can say they did that?
Yeah.
Very few. So you kind of go, man, what other characters can I come up with? What other stories can I tell? So I've been, I'm fortunate in that I'm working on a couple other projects now that hopefully, once the pandemic ends, I can see them to fruition.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, we're going to do the old, what was the show? Wayne's World, we're going to go backwards in time, because I have a hallmark question that I like to begin and end with. And I want to get to that question, and also just find out more about your career in stand-up. Mm-hmm. So let me start by asking you, now that we're, 10, 12 minutes into this interview, can you give me one word to describe your past?
It's a good question, because it always changes, right? If you would ask me that question when I was in college, it'd probably be like one word. And if you ask me when I was in high school, another word. Uh-huh. When I look at it now, I would say the word is rich. Rich in detail, rich in emotion, rich in texture, rich in storytelling. Maybe because my vocabulary is a lot stronger now. Mm-hmm. And when I say vocabulary, I'm talking about my ability to sit with a certain experience, to sit with a certain memory. Like maybe my dad and I had a fight about something, whereas as a youth, I kind of just want to brush it off. As an adult now, I'm kind of like, what happened? Was I partially to blame? Did I in fact say something wrong? So you're able to get like different layers of the story, and you kind of go, what did my brother think about that? Let me call my brother and ask him what he thought about that moment. And then you start getting different vantage points.
Yeah.
I'll probably be talking to my fiance. Hey, this happened. What do you think about that? She'll go, wait, but I know your dad. He would do X. So I think it's almost like a telescope, right? Like as you get older and wiser, hopefully you're able to look at, man, all this was going on. Like my mother was in that room. So I would say rich.
Yeah. What motivated you to start stand up?
The answer again is always changing. I suspect that we all have a craving for some type of freedom, whether it's buying a car. Sometimes people buy a car because they want to get free. And a car is very symbolic of American freedom. The Chevrolet, I'm going to get in my Ford, I'm going to get my pickup, I'm going to go out there. And I think some people become martial artists, some people become creative writers, some people become a hairstylist. Maybe you with this podcast, we're all looking for a version of like, how can I be different versions of myself?
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's, I was watching Eddie Murphy with my older brother and my cousin, and I just got a real kick out of watching them watch Eddie Murphy.
Huh.
And they'd be watching Eddie Murphy laughing their heads off. And I would go, huh. That's a nice way to get your ego stroked, like they're laughing at Eddie Murphy, and they're saying Eddie Murphy's great, man. He's the funniest dude ever. And I was like, that's a great way to get some attention.
Yeah.
So then from there, my father was also into Rodney Dangerfield. So I got into that. Then later on, I got into Steve Martin. I got into Robin Williams. I got into Jim Carrey. I got into Ellen. I got into Whoopi Goldberg. I got into Melissa McCarthy as of late. So it's like, I hate to be like, spiritual about this stuff, but there's something to be said about the things that catch your eye.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can imagine Jay-Z when he first heard a rap, right? Something went, hey, pay
Yeah.
attention, hey, get over here. And maybe for a couple of years you kind of fight it, like, get it, stop, you know, this mosquito is just annoying me. And then you start to, like, you know, it's what Joseph Campbell calls, you know, follow your bliss. You know, I'm a big fan of Star Wars, at least the first three. The original three. I know people, nerds get into fights about which one are you talking about? A New Hope? Are you talking about? I always say, like, what if Luke decided to ignore Obi-Wan? You know, who's this old guy bothering me?
Uh-huh.
You know, would he have met Chewie? Would he have met, you know, Leia? Would he have met Han Solo?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started, man. I think we all have a little bug, and you know, if you believe in yourself enough, and you have people believing in you.
Yeah.
And, you know, the problem is that, especially with comedy, I think, you know, more so than any other profession, is that it requires a lot of you being legitimized. You know, have you done the Montreal Comedy Festival? Have you done a late night? Which clubs are you past that? Do you have any film credits? Which makes sense because there's so many of us. So you need a way to kind of you know, give people you know, schedule opportunities.
Right.
I think with a lot of us is like, man, how am I going to get into Montreal? How am I going to get into this? And it requires an enormous amount of belief, especially in an industry where it's hard to make money.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to make money, man. You know, you're getting paid $5 in certain sets, $7. You know, sometimes they pass a bucket around. Hey guys, here's a bucket for the artist. And you tell your parents, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing a prom show at 1 a.m. at New York Comedy Club. A prom show? You performing for teenagers? What are you, a pedophile? What the hell? What are you doing? You know, it's like the beginnings of comedy are very just kind of like bare bone, man.
Mm-hmm.
You're in some bar to open mic with comics who are just waiting for themselves to go on. You know, they're like, oh, I got to listen to this guy because I'm number 10 in the bucket list. You know, so yeah, I would say it's, you know, enormous belief and just kind of being patient, sticking in it. Mm-hmm. A very long-winded answer.
No, it's good. When did you start? What year?
I started, I would say, I'm like 13 years in now.
Okay.
13, 14 years in. Maybe between 13 and 15. I think I started in 2007.
Okay.
And which would be 13 years now. I started 07, 08. That's when I really kind of started, you know, trying to go out every night.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, and like, it's curious. I'm curious because I want to talk to you about Austin a bit. Because I've kind of been interested in Austin as of late. Mm-hmm. Because I've been watching Richard Linklater.
Yeah.
The director.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that guy. I'm fascinated by, like, you know, I just saw Waking Life. I just downloaded Slacker. I've been watching School of Rock. So the Austin, I want to know about the Austin comedy scene.
Okay.
But long story short, in retrospect, you know, I feel like I sound like Malcolm Gladwell when I say this. But in retrospect, I'm realizing now how significant it is that I was living in New York City. This is kind of the epicenter for stand-up comedy.
Right.
And, you know, I love LA, I love all the other cities, but I assume the subway system here just makes it so that you can get to so many different shows within a short amount of time. So it's almost like you're going to the gym and you're trying to do bench press 5 times a day. But you got to do it in different parts of the city. If you're in LA, the challenge is there's always traffic.
Right.
Where's parking? You know, so you can maybe get 2-3 sets a night. But in New York, it's like, well, I'm going to do a bar in Brooklyn. Then I'm going to run to the Upper West Side, do the comic strip. Then I'm going to shoot down to the Comedy Cellar. And then I'm going to close my night out with a midnight show at Stand Up New York. And then because I was living here rent-free with my dad for a long time, while my comedy income was low, I was able to live rent-free with my dad. And I was able to do all these spots. So my development was massaged by the fact that my costs could be kept, you know, minimum.
Yeah.
I'm living with my dad. We were from New York. A lot of comics come to New York from other cities, and they gotta couch surf. They gotta stay with a friend. They gotta be a roommate. While they're doing that, they gotta work at a hot dog shop. They gotta be a waiter. Yep. And when I look at that, I'm like, I'm very blessed that I had the privilege, you know, being able to leverage the fact that my father already set up roots here, which then allowed me to get into stand-up and do it in a way that was like, I mean, listen, I had my stresses, but it was like a lot of the stresses were reduced. because of my circumstances.
Yeah.
I still have my bumps in the road, and of course we can talk about that. But in retrospect, New York is the place to be, man.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I've been covering the Austin comedy scene for years, and it's always an interesting thing to watch our Austin comics who move to New York. And then of course, it's always a question, New York or LA. And I think the folks that go to New York know that they're in for a hard road. But they know that hard road will have payoffs if they are persistent and they keep working at it.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, unfortunately, too many of them, they have to, have 4 roommates in a 1-bedroom studio. I don't know how anybody does it, but if they've got the drive.
Yeah, then you ask them, do you have health insurance? They kind of go, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what's the Austin comedy scene like?
Well, it's so hard right now because we've been living in this quarantine state for a few months now. It's a great comedy scene. The thing that comes up often when I talk to comics that are not in Austin or based in Austin is Austin's too nice. We are very supportive. I know.
God forbid.
Worst thing in the world, right?
God forbid a community supportive. God forbid. God, I want to make one quick thing. My friend, I got a friend, my friend Damien and I, we always talk about this whole like struggling artist thing.
Uh-huh.
Like it feels like there's a period in our history as artists where you have to kind of pay your dues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a sign of a true artist. Did I really fight? Did I really go through it? And like, I think we all wish that people were more supportive. Like, I think we all want that. I think it's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost celebrated. Like, oh yeah, he did the comedy show, and this guy had the World Series on while he performed, and his jokes still landed. That's what I call comedy. Come on, man. Like,
but when you compare it with somebody that has to fight, with hundreds of comics in New York, or figure out, who's the right person to know in LA, we don't necessarily prepare our Austin comics for living in that environment. But then that's why you go to those environments, to learn those skills. And we have the gamut. I talk to people who are like, I don't want to go to those cities until I'm ready. And then we have others that say, just go. Go. You're not going to ever be ready, ever. So just go. If that's your ambition, just get there.
It's funny because like what you're talking about is almost an extension of like what college preparatory programs try to do. Like, they'll take a kid from a rough, inner city neighborhood or economic straits, economic, constraints.
Sure.
Hey, we're going to teach you how to write an essay. We're going to get you scholarships. We're going to get you room and board so that you can survive those 4 years at Harvard. And then from there, you can launch into your adulthood. Like, there should be a version of that for comedy, right? Like, we're going to teach you how to write jokes. We're going to get you a scholarship. You're going to do 4 years in Manhattan. And then at that point, you'll launch off and
you'll be successful. If only there was an easy formula for it.
Side note, I love Austin because I play San Antonio from time to time. And my fiance, she came to see me last time in San Antonio. We drove to the Salt Lake barbecue.
Yes.
And I know some of your listeners are probably vegetarian. All love to them. And a lot of my friends are vegetarian, they're vegan. But I just want to shout out, the Salt Lake in Austin, because we have their seasoning. And
nice.
And then my fiance, shortly after that, she went to Austin with her friends, and they saw the bats coming out of the bridge.
Yeah.
It's a cool city, man. It's a cool city.
Yeah. No, I have found myself on many an occasion driving down to San Antonio. I don't know if you were doing the LOL Club.
I was doing the LOL at the one by the Riverwalk.
Oh, okay, that one. Yeah, that one does not exist anymore. But the LOL,
really?
they
shut down.
Yeah, they closed that one down. But the other one, which is a little bit north of town, has a really, really good. Whoever books it is great, because there are so many times where I look at the calendar and I'm like, I guess I'm driving to San Antonio this month a couple of times. So yeah, it's really good, and I think they've upped their game in terms of competing with who we get in Austin, because our big club is Cap City.
Yes,
Which,
Colleen.
yeah, which I'm
Colleen, yeah.
guessing, yeah, if you know her, and if you've been on Just for Laughs, then it's probably, oh yeah, it's a no-brainer to get booked for Cap City Comedy Club. So
How is that club? I'm dying to play it. How is it?
uh,
Nice?
it's very nice, yes, and because Austin is a good comedy scene, like people respect Cap City. It is the big venue club before you get to a theater level.
Right.
So it's a
That's
great
awesome.
venue. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Can't wait.
yeah. So I'll be keeping an eye on whether,
Yeah, man, absolutely. Absolutely.
and
Gotta
you'll
keep
be
it
like, oh my
right.
God, that's the stalker interview lady.
What is the deal with Austin right now? Are things open? What's going on? Is it
So Austin, as you may know, is the little blue dot in a very conservative red state.
okay.
So while our governor has said, oh, let's just open everything up, Austin has been very conservative and trying to not open as aggressively. So far, the only comedy that is happening there's a comic that is doing a drive-in type of scenario, and then there was this weekend somebody that hosted an open mic at an outdoor venue, and that's all that's happened. So our governor has basically opened things up a couple of weeks ago, and I host a show, and it's at a bar, and the owner is like super gung-ho to get started. He wanted to open up and do the show last weekend, and my gut said, no way, not happening. And I asked the Austin comedy community, so when do you think you'd be ready? What are the precautions that you'd want to take? And pretty much everybody said, nothing in June is going to happen. We're just too anxious.
Wow.
So I've been keeping an eye on the Cap City calendar to see if they've booked anybody. And there's a smaller club in town called the Velveeta Room, and they haven't opened up yet. So I think, it's representative of how Austin is compared to the rest of Texas. This, they're kind of doing a wait and see approach. But I do know that Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston clubs have started shows starting either last weekend or the weekend before. So, you can get booked outside of Austin. I just think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those conversations are starting to bubble up, like where comics can go, and that's the good thing of being a traveling comedian, is that, say if you live in New York and a state opens up, you can go work there and make some money. So interesting times, man.
For sure. In more ways than one right now. It's like,
I do think about like what this pandemic would be like if you remove the Zoom and everything else, right? Like, at minimum, it allows this to happen. It allows a comedian from New York to talk to someone in Austin.
Yeah.
You can keep the momentum, so to speak. Could you imagine this, like just you and me in a bubble right now, completely distant from each other, and trying to figure out where stand-up comedy going to be?
Yeah.
So I think that what we're doing with these conversations, like you and I, is, and maybe it's a sexual term, but like we're getting the blue balls, and we're getting them. It's a healthy blue balls. We got the comedy blue balls. We're talking, and then when things open up, it's gonna be like, oh, great seeing you. Hey,
yeah,
we did a Zoom call together. There you are.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm in Austin. Hey, let's go. Come to the show. So I'm blessed that at least we have this, man.
Right. Yeah, and we've been producing these online comedy shows, and I feel the same way. Like, I love seeing live comedy. I love festivals when they come through, when I can, see a person face to face and watch them live and in person. And I just think about all the people that we've had on the online show and how I just can't wait to see them live and in person when they come through Austin.
And listen, bombing on Zoom
is
a lot healthier than bombing in person. Well, then again, it's easier to record a bombing. Like,
Yeah. Right.
I did a comedy show about maybe 3 weeks ago, and whether you're trying to figure out if you're doing good. Like, am I doing good? Am I killing? What am I doing here? And even if you bomb on a Zoom thing, it's like everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's Zoom. It's
right.
Like,
exactly.
it's a compassionate release.
Exactly.
You bomb, but it was Zoom. All right, come on.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's an asterisk on that. And then to see some guys like blowing the light, right?
Yeah.
And like, you just do the light on a Zoom, and it's like, I was trying to find the light. You know what the light is.
Yeah.
You see the time. You know what went on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting times, and we'll see if the online show has a reason to be after things start opening up.
Yeah.
I have friends who are hermits, and they're like, this is so great. The online comedy show is so great for me because I know I don't have to get out of my house and I can still watch great comedy. So I don't know. We'll see.
Man. And it really makes you question your insecurities, because for a stand-up comedian, when you're on stage, how long you been doing stand-up?
I've been doing it like less than 3 years.
But that's enough. You know that, like, you start to, when you're a couple years in, you start to learn what a good, like, you start to hear it. Like, that was good. That was better than the last time.
Yeah.
And I think we're still trying to figure out the acoustics.
Right.
And by the way, and I only asked you for reference. I sometimes people ask that question because they're trying to gauge where someone else is at. I was trying to see, where you're at and how. That's all.
Yeah, and I've been watching very closely the Austin comedy scene for 8 years, so I know when a set is bombing, but the comic themselves is a great comic.
Right.
So when it's a hobby, advanced hobby, that I can tell those nuances.
So for 8 years, you were just watching comedy. Crazy, man.
Yeah. I didn't start this podcast because I wanted to do comedy. I started because I wanted to get to know the people off stage.
Right.
After watching them do great stuff on stage. So
I would go when I was before I jumped into comedy. This is before YouTube. I would go to the Paley Media Center.
Okay.
In New York, and it was like an archive. I would go in there for like hours. I'd watch like Jerry Seinfeld sets. I watched Richard Pryor sets. I watched George Carlin sets.
Wow.
I mean, now on YouTube, but back in the day, you had to like book a time, and I had to go watch all these clips. There's always almost every comedian has this phase where they're just nerding out.
Yeah.
They're just nerding out, man. And then they're stalkers, and they talk about it like it's a fetish. Yo, you heard Bill Burr's gonna be at the lounge. He's sure Bill Burr's gonna be there, man. And people outside the community are like, well, who cares? And he's like, yo, it's Bill Burr, man.
Yeah.
Patrice O'Neal's gonna be there. But that's always a good sign when you geek out for like a period of time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We have already gone about 35 minutes. I think we could talk forever and ever and ever.
Absolutely.
I want to be respectful of your time. Do we have time for a few more questions and things to explore? So you've accomplished a lot of really great credentials in the last 5 years. Can you tell us what it was like when you got Just for Laughs? Because that's such a big thing. Here in Austin, people know what a big deal it is to get that.
And if you like Valerie, right?
Yeah.
If you like Valerie, Mashable did a little piece on me connected to Just for Laughs. And if you want to link it with the podcast.
Sure.
Just type in Mashable, Vladimir Caamaño. It'll show up on YouTube.
Okay.
I auditioned 3 times. I got it on my 3rd try. And I think, one thing that was hard for a lot of comedians take it personally. They take it personally. Oh man, they're looking for this type of thing. I killed that night. And they passed on me. And I remember every year, to this day, even when years passed, I'll pop into the clubs and I'll hear the comics talking about it. They bitter, man. They blah blah blah. They're looking for this, that kind of thing. And I think the good thing about auditioning for Just for Laughs is that it's for many comics, it's their first experience in dealing with their relationship to rejection. at a level where it's, because typically if you audition for something, it's typically like small stuff, you know?
Sure.
You're auditioning for like a small comedy competition. It's a small festival somewhere. But then when it's just for laughs, it's like you got rejected. And what I would say to comedians is that, and this is easier said than done, but it is important to understand that they have about 3 judges and they're sifting through hundreds of comedians. And it's hard for a lot of us to swallow the fact that maybe there's a comedian who's similar to me in Austin who did a better job. Mm-hmm. How would I know? I was only at the New York audition.
Yeah.
But you'll take it personally. You know, the judges, they don't like what I do. And it's hard to do. This is what I meant by trying to get the accolades. It's very difficult to pursue your craft when nothing is going on. It's easy to do your craft when you're getting constantly rewarded for it. Mm-hmm. You know, it takes a long time, but I would say just try your best to not take it personally. You know, if you get it, great. If you don't, you know, and maybe the reason you got it was also luck. Who knew? You know,
yeah.
You know, it's just like it's so difficult to not take any of this stuff personally. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like judging. I don't know. What's an example of something like a diving competition?
Right.
You know what? You know the things that you are looking for precisely, and what it means to get a 10 rating. Comedy, you can't do that. So those judges have, you know, whatever they're looking for, and this is, oh goodness, phone call.
People like you, Valerie.
I guess so.
People like you.
We have a competition in Austin called the Funniest Person in Austin competition. It crowns a winner every year, and very similar to what you were just saying is just because you've won or not won doesn't mean you can't do great things.
Right.
Or doesn't ensure that you will do great things. It's, you know, no one path is the same.
Right. And that's very hard for people to understand, man. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to understand sometimes still to this. You have to remind yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Life is strange.
Yeah.
Life is strange, man. You know, we all want to pursue our dreams and have our own version of success. But, you know, we don't know where things turn, and you just, you know, you do your best, you try your best, and you hope that you have friends along the way. That's all that matters, man.
Yeah.
That's all that matters, you know. To have somebody say, you know, if you bomb, to have somebody say, you know, hey man, you did a good job. Because I'll be honest, I've had friends, I've bombed, and I've had friends who kind of said, like, yo, man, you got to stop doing this. You know, you're making a fool of yourself up there. And I remember hearing those voices, and I remember thinking to myself, I have a choice to make here. I either listen to what this person is saying, or I keep going with the knowledge that I'm potentially making a fool of myself. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Because now you're up there performing going, am I an idiot right now? Am I a moron right now? Like, you're just trashing yourself on stage, you know, like, so I've learned one of the things I've learned, and, you know, knock on wood, is I've learned to recognize when you know, the type of people that make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
You know, this person makes me feel good about myself. And that goes a long way. That goes a long way. Even if they don't directly say it, the fact that they make you feel good about yourself, you know, if you bombed on stage and they barely bring it up, it's a good person to be around.
Yeah.
Because that means they're hanging out with you despite the bombing.
Right. They like you.
I like you, man. that goes a long way to making you funny on stage.
Yeah.
You know, the group of people around me make me feel funny. And then you go on stage with that lightness. You're like, yo, I'm a nice guy. Like, people like me. Therefore, there's got to be a handful of people in this room that don't like me too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you know, when there's always haters, man. There's always people that just kind of got to bring you down.
Yeah. I mean, looking backward, could you have ever imagined that first time that you got rejected at Just for Laughs, that you would have, this really diverse acting career, the pilot under your belt, the potential for bringing the story of your life
Right.
To us on TV, and then being
Right.
in this I mean, I'm sorry, I have to say it again, Edie friggin' Falco.
Listen. I thought the same thing when I got the confirmation, because I got the script and I auditioned, and I said, man, if I can book this with Edie Falco, like, holy cow, man, like,
yeah.
I've been watching Edie for years, and I would watch her on screen, and I remember looking at her going, like, she just looks like a good person.
Mm-hmm.
That's the weird thing about this, man. Like, I would watch her on Oz, I'd watch her on Nurse Jackie, I'd watch her on Sopranos, and something about her just kind of broke through the character. I was like, she looks like just like a good person. And then I auditioned for the thing, and I get the call, Vlad, you got the role. And I meet her for the first time at a dinner. We had a cast dinner. And I remember walking in there going, who am I to be here? Like, this sucks to think this way, but I'm just being honest.
Sure.
I'm a stand-up from New York. Who am I to be here with Edie Falco? Like, this woman is arguably one of the best actors in the game right now.
Yeah.
You could even argue, like, for the past 100 years, whatever, she's that good.
Yeah. And
I meet her, and she's so warm and welcoming. And then you learn that, like, she went through the same thing. She went through the same voices and rejection, and she's extremely humble and gracious, and she has nothing but gratitude. And you go, okay, so you can be successful and carry yourself like that. Like, Edie makes me feel good. You know, back to my point about people that make you feel good.
Yeah.
I was like, she makes me feel good. Like, she makes me, if Edie says I can act, I'm going to go act in this other thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? and then when someone says to you, oh my God, you can't act, you go, no, dude, Edie Falco, we work together on scenes together. So whatever you say means garbage to me.
Yeah.
I did it with Edie Falco. It's like, the people around you sometimes, they're like, it's almost like they're notarizing you, like, boom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's your new tagline, Vladimir. It's Edie. Yeah. Edie said I can.
Edie said I could do this. So who are you? But she really is amazing, man. Like, I always say about her that she's so ordinary, she becomes extraordinary. I always say that's what makes. She's found a way to just be simple.
Yeah.
She gives you the dish, and it just feels like it's an amazing culinary delight. But it's just like, so what'd you put in this? And she goes, oh, just salt and pepper. Like, wait a minute. So you make this tomato taste like that with just salt and pepper? Like, yeah. I took my time with it. That's what's so amazing about her.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. It's an amazing journey that you're on.
Absolutely.
We're going to start wrapping down because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Is there anything that you'd like to promote that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, I would like to promote my social media, which is Laughing Vlad. And that's my Instagram, that's my Facebook, that's my YouTube, the whole nine. Because eventually this thing will open up, and I'd love to come to Austin and other places and have your listeners come check me out. I got some stuff coming up that I'll probably share with you. I have something airing in June, but I'm just trying to figure out if I can announce it just yet.
Sure.
But, when it comes up, I can send that your way. But that's why I say if they follow me on YouTube, they can. If they follow me on Instagram and everything else, they can get that information.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so I like to close out with another question, and that is one word to describe your future. I don't know how to spell that.
I'll tell you why. That's a hard thing to answer because, one of the things, I've dealt with anxiety in my life, and one of the things you learn about anxiety is that you have an addiction to anticipate. And especially now, we're all trying to anticipate how things are going to turn out. And I'm speaking specifically about current events that are going on. We're all sitting here going, how is this thing going to turn out, man? how is this going to turn out? When is it going to get resolved? If it gets resolved, what is it going to look like? What is the new version of society going to look like? And I'm learning to live in the moment more, to live in the present. I would say that my future looks peaceful. It looks tranquil, and those are my needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sorry, those are my wants.
Yeah.
My needs are I'm extremely successful. I got boatloads of cash, and I got houses on different coasts. So those are my. So I would say this, and this I actually learned from Edie. I'm working on Tommy. Is that all we can control is the process. So I hope that the outcome of the next 10 years of my life, 20, 30 years of my life are extremely successful. And I hope I'm able to help other people in the process. And those are my outcomes. But I hope along the way that I'm peaceful, I'm calm, I'm in the moment. I feel like I sound like Kurt Vonnegut right now. Because, Kurt was very big about what is good and bad. What's good now could be bad later. What's bad now could be good later. Mm-hmm. So his whole thing was just, you got to love the people you're with now as much as you can, as best as you can. So that's a long answer to a short question, but
one word-ish.
one word-ish. I would say peaceful.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
I apologize, Valerie.
No, not at all. No, you've been very gracious with your time. And just remember, I fangirled.
Thank you, Valerie. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, that is a wrap on Comedy Wham presents Vladimir Caamaño. Tell us again where we can find you on social media and promote that YouTube channel so we can keep an eye out.
So it's Laughing Vlad. It's LAUGHING VLAD. Laughing Vlad.
And definitely catch those past videos there. And his website also has a lot of the video clips from the shows that I talked about, and the At Midnight appearance, which you were on the. I have to drop this because I'm a big Dalia fan. So I'm like, you got to stand next to the towering asparagus that is Chris Dalia.
Hilarious.
Great. We hope you've enjoyed learning about how Vladimir got to be the comedic genius that you heard today, just as much as I have. This has been Comedy Wham presents Vladimir Caamaño. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Vladimir.
Thank you so much. Talk soon.